Hey, welcome. Oh, it is a Monday, February 27th. And, we'll echo there. Let's talk about Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelenskyy, shall we? I mean, many people in the media keep comparing him to Winston Churchill. But honestly, the only thing they have in common is a fondness for cigars. Zelenskyy, former comedian, he's been caught up in the Pandora Papers scandal, which is kind of like the Ukrainian version of the Panama Papers. I mean, I get it, Zelenskyy. Taxes are boring. They're also kind of important when you're running a country. When they say lead by example, they don't mean showing you're worse at hiding corruption than Hunter Biden. That's pretty bad. And speaking of money, the U.S. has sent over $75 billion to Ukraine without any audits of the funds. It's like lending money to your buddy Jesse and hoping he'll pay you back someday. True story. Throwing money at a problem and hoping it goes away, that's never worked. And it's as if this whole thing is one giant money grift. Hey, wait a minute. Look, if he wants to be compared to Churchill, and he does, give some rousing speeches, or, I don't know, recognize your fate, try some diplomacy. Anyone comparing Zelenskyy to Churchill is a straight-up propagandist. Next, they'll be calling Kamala Harris Joan of Arc. I get it, Zelensky's a comedian, but nothing he's done as president is funny whatsoever. Hey, Vladimir, why'd you just fire your commander of Ukraine Joint Forces? Did he disagree that you can defeat Russia? Because that's comedy. My name is Tom Coffey. This is the Coffee and Nuance Show, the best censored commentary and news show live right now. Flame on. All right. Thanks for joining me, everyone. Glad to see we got some people here. And, yeah, this is an interesting story that does not appear in the mainstream press. And you got to wonder to yourself why. That's Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelenskyy. He's been privately advised by Western leaders that Ukraine cannot win its war against Russia and should begin peace talks with Moscow this year. This is despite public statements that Western leaders will continue to support Ukraine until it achieves victory on the battlefield. The private communications are reportedly due to deepening doubts that Ukraine will be able to expel the Russians from eastern Ukraine and Crimea. The Wall Street Journal reported that French President Emmanuel Macron and German Chancellor Olaf Scholz told Zelenskyy he must consider peace talks with Moscow. Western leaders are suggesting that in exchange for peace talks with Moscow, Ukraine should receive closer ties with NATO. However, the deal would not include membership with Article 5 protection. So that's the thing, right? I have been hearing just over and over how this guy is Churchill. He's no Churchill at all. And I've heard it so many times, I thought there was a montage out there of all the different people, all the talking heads calling him Churchill. I looked for it, I couldn't find it. And that's one of the problems these days, is if you see something that you think is good, you gotta save it immediately because it's really hard to find things. If there was this montage on Twitter that I saw a week ago, I can't find it. That's why it's always good to put things in a folder with, links to articles or, memes you like. You download the meme because who knows if you're ever going to see it again. So I don't know. Maybe it's my imagination because I couldn't find it. But I remember just everyone calling this guy Churchill. I don't think these people know who Churchill was. You know, this guy stood up to the Nazis. He rallied the world. I'm not buying it with Zelenskyy whatsoever. But that's just my take on it. Let me know if you have a different opinion, because we all have different opinions. And, but to me, no Churchill whatsoever. He kind of reminds me of Pete Buttigieg. I don't know why. Probably because they're similar in stature. But, and his angry march, really, I find amusing. But what I don't find amusing is this stupid war. I'm not placing the blame anywhere. I just think it should end. And the longer it goes on, the more people die and the worse it gets for the world. And if you're, I don't know, if you're just an environmentalist, you should be against the war. I can't think of anything worse for the environment than a bunch of bombs going off all the time. You know? I don't know. Crazy times. But it's not as crazy as the other stories that we're going to get to today. In fact, yeah, turns out that now officially they're saying the lab leak could be likely true. I'm not saying that because I would never make a claim like that, but it turns out our government is actually saying that now. That's about time. There have been some changes to the way Mexico does elections. I want to tell you about that. And Scott Adams of Dilbert Cancelled. And I have some insight on that as well. And lastly, we got some good news, and that's Sidewalk ducks. And you may think to yourself, what the heck are Sidewalk ducks? Well, stick around because I'm going to get to that. As always, if you are not watching live, I do put the time codes for every article, every news story that I do down below in the description and on the scrub bar on YouTube, so you can skip to the next story if you choose to do that. Hey, and if you like that I've done that where no one else seems to do that, you know, you can give me a thumbs up. That would be awesome. Give me a like, because that will really help the channel. Perhaps. At least it helps me. It helps me. So let's get to this next story about the COVID lab leak, shall we? All right, here we are. The COVID lab leak. The Energy Department has concluded that the COVID pandemic most likely arose from a laboratory leak, according to a classified intelligence report provided to the White House and key members of Congress. For years, the media and government dismissed anyone who raised the lab theory as a conspiracy theorist or a racist. Nicholas Wade, a former New York Times science editor, criticized his former colleagues for ignoring the obvious evidence supporting a lab theory, as well as Chinese efforts to arrest scientists and destroy evidence that could establish the origin. The media narrative, it's been proven false. And this is really about censorship. Democratic leaders like Representative Jamie Raskin called for more censorship and opposed investigations into censorship efforts. Wow, what a shock that the people that have been calling this a conspiracy theory, now want to censor anyone that wants to spike the football, take a victory lap. Hey, we were right about this. No. Let's censor them. That's what we're getting from our politicians. Now, again, I am not an expert in this. I am just going by the story that now our government is finally saying what I thought everybody knew years ago. So that's a good move. I guess. I guess that's one more win for Follow the Science, right? Yeah, on a side note, speaking of COVID, I took a COVID test yesterday because I am still under the weather. Let's see. You can see that, but it only has a blue stripe. There's no faint pink stripe, so that means I'm 100% male. Or no, I'm sorry. That means no COVID whatsoever. So that was good news. I'm still running a temperature. The temperature breaks. Next day, I got a temperature again. This is like day 5 or 6. Not sure what is going on with me. Thankfully, I don't have COVID. But if I did have COVID, it likely would have come from a lab leak. How about that? Full circle. And next, let's talk about what is going on in Mexico. All right. Tens of thousands of people gathered in Mexico City to protest changes to the country's electoral laws, which could potentially threaten democracy. They were angry about the reforms, which will cut salaries, local funding for election offices, and training for citizens who operate and oversee polling stations. This could potentially lead to sanctions for candidates who fail to report their campaign spending. Protesters, clad mostly in white and pink, carried placards and shouted slogans like, "Don't touch my vote and save our democracy." Many are also worried about the kind of vote miscounting, campaign overspending, and electoral pressure tactics that were common in Mexico before the Independent Electoral Agency was created in the 1990s. The president's strident pushback against the judiciary, as well as regulatory and oversight agencies, has raised fears that he is seeking to reinstitute the practices of the old PRI, which bent rules to retain Mexico's presidency for 70 years until its defeat in the 2000 elections. So, this picture here, this is the Zocalo, right here. This is in Mexico City. It is the old, like a town square, if you will. And it can hold 100,000 people. It is a massive, massive square in the center of Mexico City. And it was packed for this protest about changes to how they run their elections. Now, the president is saying things like, hey, we're spending too much on these things. We need to cut back on spending. Everything can be justified to anyone, right? Anything can be justified. But the one thing that Mexico should understand is that while there may be changes to how Mexico does their elections, and it may get a little looser with some of the regulations, they don't have to worry, because every single presidential election in the world is always legitimate, and there's never anything in a presidential election that would change the outcome of the presidential election. That's the way that it works. So the people of Mexico don't need to be worried whatsoever, because they should know from our social media companies that it will never be big enough to change the outcome of an election. That's just how things are in this world in 2023. So don't worry about them loosening up some of the things. Don't worry that they're not going to pay for training for poll workers and things like that. Don't worry, because none of it will ever affect a presidential election. And that is my official statement on that. I was going to give you an update on the Nigerian elections, but they're still counting them. Nigeria had their presidential election on Saturday. They still don't have the majority of the votes in. The majority of the districts have not reported their findings, and all three parties are calling for some investigations because they don't like how things are going. But I will have more on that when I have more information. As of right now, yeah, there's not a whole lot to report other than they had the vote. Apparently, people were voting like well over a day after polling stations closed. However that happens, I don't know. But when we get some more news on that, I will let you know for sure. But now let's get into the juicy story of the day about the cancellation of Dilbert. All right, well, let me put up this graphic from CNN here. This is the way CNN reported it. Hundreds of newspapers dropped Dilbert comic strip after racist tirade from creator Scott Adams. Now, that's not my words. That's the way that it's being reported in the media. Scott Adams, the creator of the Dilbert comic strip, faced backlash after making controversial remarks on his podcast about Black Americans and white people. In response, numerous media outlets decided to cancel the publication of Dilbert cartoons. Elon Musk tweeted about the situation, suggesting there was media bias in reporting on this issue. Adams' remarks were in reference to a poll about whether people thought it was okay to be white, and Adams suggested that as almost half of Black respondents were not okay with it, constituted a hate group. He went on to advise white people to stay away from Black people, saying that it was not worth trying to help them. Many newspapers condemned Adams' remarks and chose to stop publishing Dilbert. Now, as I looked this morning, yeah, he's totally canceled now. His publisher dropped him, and all the newspapers dropped him. I think his book publisher dropped him. And, you know, you could get into the why. I think often there will be a story that you can use as a litmus test to check how a media source is on being accurate in the news, okay? And I think that this is one of those litmus tests. If you were to watch the podcast where he discussed this isn't exactly what he said, okay? And he went on to have another podcast the next day with a guy named Hotep Jesus, where he discussed it even further, explaining everything. And I don't think that I would characterize it as a racist tirade, right? That's what the CNN's calling it, a racist tirade. Tirades, usually you raise your voice, you would think. I mean, am I having a tirade right now? Because this is about the voice level that Scott Adams had when he was saying these things. And I'm not here to excuse what he said or to explain it, really. But essentially, there was a Rasmussen poll, and it asked people, hey, do you agree with this statement or disagree with this statement? It's okay to be white. Now, this is a dumb poll, right? But you would think that, I don't know, 100% of people would say, yeah, it's okay to be white, it's okay to be Black, it's okay to be gay, it's okay to be trans, it's okay to be Jewish, it's okay to be Muslim, it's okay to be Christian, it's okay to be an atheist. You would think that this is not a controversial thing. Well, the results of this poll were such that nearly half of Black respondents disagreed with the statement that it's okay to be white. Yikes. Well, that's not good. And so what Mr. Adams was doing is he was saying, hey, if there's a group of people that don't like you for your own personal benefit, probably stay away from them. He wasn't saying to stay away from all black people, but it was just kind of a general statement. If you were to move into a neighborhood and you found out that 20% of the people didn't think your right to exist was a thing, probably you shouldn't move into that neighborhood. You should probably move somewhere else. And that was what his point was. If I'm to read minds, which I cannot read minds, he has been wanting to do this for a while. I think the man is very isolated. His marriage ended, a year ago or something. He live streams every day, and he goes most days without leaving his house. I think he's gotten a little weird. And he said that he was doing this for that free speech is expensive, and he was going to prove it. So I think he's proving it. So this is a developing story. I think, but when I talked about the litmus test, right? When I talked about the litmus test here, look at how it's reported, okay? And you can go and look for yourself and decide if it's a racist tirade. I mean, maybe that's your opinion. I don't understand that point of view, because just as a tirade, I would think you would probably have to raise your voice and be cursing. I don't know. Didn't seem like a tirade to me. Didn't seem particularly racist to me. Seemed like a really stupid thing to say, right? Really dumb thing to say, because saying something like that, you can understand how easily it would be misunderstood, okay? But I think he was doing this for effect. He knew exactly what he was doing, and I think he wanted to end his empire on his own terms, and who knows what's going on, with his own personal life. I can't read his minds, but it looked like this was intentional, and so we'll just have to stay tuned to see where it goes. But as a litmus test, pick someone. New York Times, Washington Post, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, whatever. Look at how they're reporting about this story, and look into the story yourself and see if you think that it is a fair way that they're reporting it. Now, the story that I told you was about Elon Musk and how he said that the media is the racist one. And I would tend to agree with that as well. But that's just my take on it. I will have more to say about the Scott Adams thing. I just need to put together my thoughts a little better. This is all kind of breaking right now. So that's all I have on that. But I would like to know your opinion on that, and if you agree or disagree. Because here's the thing. I'm cool with people disagreeing with me. I don't agree. I don't know if I agree with anyone in the world on everything, and I probably don't even agree with myself from a week ago. So I'm okay with not agreeing with people. That's okay. But that's what I have on that. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. And lastly, let us get to some good news. All right. The Sidewalk Ducks. You're asking yourself, what are Sidewalk Ducks? Well, it's a free toy duck exchange started in 2011 in Portland. Now, initially, his family put leftover swimming rubber ducks as favors with an invitation to take them, which resulted in a cycle of duck arrivals and departures on their sidewalk. Over time, the exchange has grown, with people leaving all kinds of duck-related tributes, including books, art pieces, and even duck-printed toilet paper. The exchange continued even when the family moved away for 2 years, and during the pandemic, an Instagram page for the Sidewalk Ducks was created, which now has fans and followers worldwide. The exchange is one of many small installations and exchanges in Portland neighborhoods promoting joy and community spirit. And I'm pro-joy. I am pro-joy, and I am pro-community spirit. I think this is a fun story. This is based on the, you go into 7-Eleven, they have a take a penny, leave a penny, and there's a little tray there. I know nobody uses cash anymore, but take a penny, leave a penny. Well, they put a little sign, take a duck, leave a duck. And it's become a thing. And it's been 12 years. This thing has been rolling. I think it's hilarious. And I think it is a small thing that can bring people joy. I know that if I were taking a walk in that neighborhood and I ran across it, that would just be a fun thing. And the reason that I tell you these stories is, one, I think we need some good news, but two, maybe I can inspire someone to do something like this. Not necessarily the take a duck, leave a duck, but in your town, maybe you can come up with something that would add a little bit of joy and community spirit to your neighborhood. And if you do, well, that would be really cool. And that would make me feel like I'm actually doing something with this channel. So that's it. I've never been to this, although it's right near, a friend of mine lives a couple blocks from where this is. So I'll have to check it out next time I'm visiting. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. Stick around the after show. I will be addressing your comments, and I hope you all are doing fantastic. I will see you next time. Peace. Hey, what's up, everyone? Be sure to hit the like button, comment, share, all that good stuff, because here we are in the after show, and the likes mean something. At least they mean something to me. I don't know if it means anything to the algorithm, but it's free. It's free to hit the like button. Doesn't cost you a thing. Anyway, I just want to say, hey, what's up, Duggo, over on Rumble? Still trying to make Rumble a thing. It's not quite a thing yet, but we'll keep plugging away at that. Still nobody on Odyssey. Probably going to be done with that. Who knows? And interesting. I thought I was live on Twitch, but apparently, am I? I might not be. Might not be. That happens sometimes. And big. Okay. That's not even. Oh, I am live. Okay, cool. Cool. But no one's there, so that's okay. All right, let's address Apothecary John, always first in the chat with the fire and the coffee. Thank you, Flame On, Diet Sprite Flame On. Hello, everybody. Hey, Miranda. Good to see you. Jesse, lending money to your buddy, Jesse. My name's Jesse, so if you want to send me a loan, bro, trust me. Smiley. Jesse, you're probably a bit more trustworthy than my buddy Jesse. Just saying. Yeah. Let's see. Scott Adams spoke some truth recently when he said the unvaxxed won. Yeah, one of the things with Scott Adams is, one, he really thinks that he's a lot more clever than he is. He's a smart guy, don't get me wrong. But I think he thinks he's even more clever than he really is. And he does a lot of trolling. He says a lot of things. I find him very interesting. I don't agree with him on... I don't know if I agree with him as much as I disagree with him. I'm not even sure. I disagree with him a lot, but I find him interesting. And that's the thing, is we can listen to people that we find interesting. It doesn't mean that we have to agree with them. And I hope you feel that way about me. I hope you don't feel that you have to agree with what I'm saying. Because you don't. You know, that's what I like, is I'm trying to reach people that have different points of view. So if we all agree on everything, well, that's kind of boring. But one thing that Scott Adams does is often he will say things and he will be disingenuous about it. And then a week later, he will explain why he lied, because he was experimenting and he was, testing this idea that he had. And I kind of find that annoying, because you kind of throw your credibility out the window when you keep saying things that you don't mean. It's kind of like the boy who cried wolf. You know, you can do it a couple times, but if you do it a lot, it's hard for me to believe me. It's hard for me to believe you when you say something. So, yeah, Dilbert books become a collector's item? Probably not, because there's millions of them. Tom, you are not capable of having a tirade. Your volume doesn't go loud enough. I wish I had this microphone with me all the time, because I do lose it sometimes. And I wish I had a microphone around me, because then maybe I wouldn't. You know, that might be a good reminder for me. I could have a little lavalier mic and just wear it with me, so that so I can always remain calm and steady. Corporate media doesn't report facts and let us conclude, but skips the facts and tells us what to conclude too often. That is actually an interesting way to phrase it, Miranda. Yes. What a duck, what no chicken. I think my neighborhood is leave a cat. Oh, that's good. I got a few extra ducks. What's the address or the cross streets? That's I'm trying to remember. It's like I think it's down in, is it down in Northwest in the Pearl, I believe. But if you really want to know, and I know that's a joke, as always, I do have links to every article that I do in the description of the video. After I get done, I will put up links to an archived version of all the stories that I talk about today. And that's good, because if you want to check it out, that's fine. But later on, it's also a good resource that you can go back, and I have links to those articles. I have done that myself when I have been like, oh yeah, what was that article? And I've just gone to my videos and found the link. So that's a good resource. I kind of like it. Diet Sprite says Odyssey sucks, to be honest. I don't know. I don't spend a whole lot of time there. I have posted a lot of videos there, and you know, they give me little tokens for posting, which is some kind of crypto. But there's not a big community there, and I think that that's one of the great things about YouTube. As many as much of an issue that I have with the way YouTube does things, it does seem to foster community around subjects and around creators and things like that. And I think that's a good thing. It really means a lot to me to see you all here for my show. And whoa, looks like I looks like this camera got unplugged. Oh well, that's all I got for today. I hope you all have a beautiful day. I'm gonna go take some vitamin C. Hope to get better, and I'll have more to say, and I'll get back to y'all too tomorrow. Peace.